Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hope you're all having a great time and I hope that you have great weather like we do. We're going into the Easter weekend. I know the whole world is going into that. So there might be a few background noises or people or kiddies. I'm sure though that it will not affect the quality of this video. So today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be drawing in an aqua pencil, meaning that it is water soluble. This is a Staedtler. Staedtler products are absolutely amazing. It's a 4B water soluble pencil. I've got my kneaded eraser. I have my two blending stumps. I have my blending brush that I use, which is a silver back. These are fantastic for blending charcoal and for blending pencil. I have my mono Tombow eraser, which is for pulling out finer detail. This is watercolor paper. It's Arches 300 gram. This is a self-made sketchbook. It's huge. I misjudged the measurements, but I carried on making it. And I have been thoroughly enjoying it. It is like an A3 size. In fact, it's slightly bigger than an A3 size. The Muse that we will be using is Rick the Muse. He has given me permission to use his photographs. They're absolutely beautiful. I have taken this through an app on my phone to enable this sort of painterly type style. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using this aquarelle pencil. I'll be drawing it first, obviously, and then I will be taking water with a paintbrush to it. So let's do our measurements as usual. You know, I use my pencil for measuring. It doesn't mean to say that it is absolutely accurate, but it does give you a whole better chance of getting the proportions correct. So I've measured from the top of his head to below his moustache, purely because you can't see his chin. His chin is about here. I can see where his chin hairs then go into, loop into his long beard, which is obviously sitting under his chin. But I'm going to be measuring from there to there, and then I'm going to be measuring from here to the top of his glasses. I'm going to be trying to keep the white of the paper. So measuring and drawing in, and when I add the paintbrush, hoping that I manage to keep all these white spaces, the white of the paper. The reason I've chosen this photograph is because I love all the contrasts. Absolutely love his glasses. I love the reflection, the two different reflections that you have in them. Love all these white hairs that show up that are reflected by the light. And I love this background that he's chosen. So let's get into it. I've gone from his forehead, or the top of his head, down to the top of his glasses, which is more or less there. You can see I'm using the side of my pencil. It doesn't really worry me if it isn't 100% accurate on the actual drawing itself. You can get the proportions right, which we will be doing. And we will be getting as much of a likeness as we can ever possibly get to him without destroying him or being embarrassed about what we have managed to draw. So this would be the center of the photograph. His face is slightly off center. You can see if I put my pencil straight on the iPad, you can see that his glasses are at an angle. So we need to get that angle. So if we transfer that across, so if we get our pencil at that angle and we just literally take it across, we should be able to get that angle of his glasses. Forgive me for putting my finger across. I normally move my sketchbook to accommodate all the angles. So that is the top of his glasses. And I may have got it ever so slightly lower because that is where it is supposed to end, is through that line that I first put down that I got you guys to measure. So I'm going to lift it and just rub that out. There we go. And then I'm going to get this from the top of the glasses onto the nose piece. So it's about there, the same angle. And we can just measure down each of these frames. They're beautiful, they're huge, and it doesn't matter if we take artistic license and enlarge them even further, because I think that this is the focus of the actual drawing. So we have that line, and that is at the same angle as what that is. And that's what you want to be getting. His nose is also at that same angle, so we want to be getting that nose at that angle. And his mouth appears straight. So if we do that, his mouth is straight, but if we do that, his moustache is obviously at the same angle, so we're just going to take that angle across there. So take out the lines that we put in originally just to get the placement of these elements. Take those lines out just so that you don't get confused. Don't join the bottom of his glasses. We don't want that line to be going across or that line to be left there, because when we add the water, that will be a mistake on the actual drawing. So now what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get the width of the glasses. We can get halfway. I don't think this is exactly half because his face is at that angle, so the one side will actually be shorter than the other side. Let's see if I'm right. I'm just measuring out those distances, and now this should measure there, and it does. You can see that there's a very, very little bit of the side of the glasses showing that go into his ear. We don't need to really worry about that too much. So what we can do now is we can get the shadow going underneath that goes down to his nose. His nose has got this beautiful shadow that goes into his moustache. We want that shape. We want to actually get that shape in there. And we want to get this shape, this shadow lines up with a sort of a fifth, not even a fifth of his glasses. So we want to get that accurately, and then we want to take this shadow down side of the glasses and along this nose. It does go in slightly and down the side into his moustache. Okay, so the one thing with this pencil, using it on its side, and particularly on watercolor paper, because the paper is so textured, I do end up with it not smearing but traveling a bit further than what I wanted to travel at. But that's fine. We can use that to our advantage. Please do it as lightly as you can. Don't lay down too much. Coming in from the other side, just getting this bottom shadow in of his glasses. You can see I've left a space, and it might be a bit lower than what I initially marked, but that's fine. And you can see that there's a nice hard edge here to those glasses. So get that hard edge in. Goes around, comes up to this eyepiece. This comes around. So I've actually taken a bit of liberty here because I like the fact that these glasses are so nice and big. And I've extended that. You can see that that top of that, the glasses actually disappear into that white reflection, that light reflection. So I want to get that. I don't want to lose that. Going around inside the rim. And this is where we've got to be careful when we start to add the actual watercolor, or the water should I say, because we are going to try and maintain those white areas. So I'm just having a look to see what shape I've got here, and I don't like this shape because it's too squarey round. So, and I want this round, complete and utter teardrop shape. So I'm going to take this out and I'm going to extend that line that way right across here. I think that that will look better. It does. So we have got this shadow coming up into here. There we go. Right. We also have this shadow at the top. Just want to extend this down. Take that there and bring these around. I think I have that shape a bit better, or am preferring it, should I say. Right. And then we have a shadow here, and you can see that his actual nose, the top of his nose, forgive me if I am clearing my throat, I still have this awful flu that's been going around. I just want to fill that in. Right. That is his nose. I just want to deepen this area, and we can deepen that. Now, the wonderful thing about using this graphite and then adding water to it is that we can just shade in these areas, and once the water is added, I'm just hoping that we end up with some of these white excuse me, areas for his reflection in his beard. I'm taking this here. Just want to check that I've got the correct distance on his face. He has a most incredible face. Nope. In that the shape of his face is just unbelievable. It goes right in, and one almost feels that you are exaggerating it, but that is what his face does. And one of the reasons why I've chosen him, because I love the shape of his face. I love his photographs. Do go and visit his Instagram page. I am now working my way up into this shadow at the top here. So it comes down into the top of his, or in line, should I say. It's really quite difficult drawing and talking at the same time. It's quite bizarre. One would think that one could do it quite easily, but it is quite a feat. Right, so that is in line with that. So if I bring this nice curve down, take it that way, it is about halfway down top of his head, about there, and take it across and over. I am probably going to do this video in a couple of stages, this tutorial, because it'll be quite lengthy if I do it in one. So we have quite a white highlight over here, so I want to keep that. So I'm going to just take the pencil down and around his head, and I just feel I'm going to extend that. I just want that line of his head, and that goes out here. There's a lovely fancy shape. I'm not quite sure what he's standing in front of, but we just have shapes out here, and that's just what I'm going to fill in. I'm just going to be doing this, and then we could go in after and darken areas. Don't fill in all of the paper, because you can see that there are quite a lot of white open spaces, which is what makes this drawing so nice. So this area is darker, so just add a bit more pressure. There are some very, very dark areas like this up against his head. We want those. Yeah, I think that is more or less what I'm going to be doing with regard to that side. We have the nose, we've come down there, and then we have these very, very light. I'm not going to put in this shadow here, because when we add the water here, we can bring that up for that shadow there. But I do want that, and I do like this. Goes down and marks his mouth. Then we're going to come here. Right, here we go. We start on the other side, and I want that same shape that I have on the other side. comes round and it actually has quite a sharp turn. So I'm hoping that I get that same shape. One thing I'm busy doing, I've joined a 100-day portraiture challenge and portraiture, yeah, that is right, portraiture challenge on Facebook. South African one. It's absolutely fabulous. It's teaching me so much because what I'm doing is I'm choosing unusual portraits. My daily practice, I would imagine, I wouldn't have chosen them. And so what's happening is I'm actually teaching myself so much because I'm using portraits that have been taken on their side, where people have taken them, sort of lying against a pillow or a cushion on a settee. I'm using this of Rick's. Found him on Facebook. Can't remember how, but asked him if I could use him for tutorials, and he said I can, absolutely. So I will be tagging him, and then you can pick him up as well. And he's amazing portraits. Right, so I think I have that shape. I'm not quite, this needs to go out more. So I am going to take that out, and you can see that this paper absorbs the graphite quite a lot. I did not take the sizing off or scrub the sizing out, should I say, which is what you're supposed to do for graphite, but that's fine. It's not a train smash. Okay, and then so this does have a nice dark line along the edge of it, so I can get away with that rubbing out. And then we have this coming in here, just putting in these shadows. This side is easier to do than the other side, so hence my doing it and having not done the other side, because I think the other side is going to take quite a bit of. Right, so there we are with that shadow, and you can see that I do this quite a lot because it teaches me to look at shapes. So I am taking that, using the side of my glasses and literally putting in that shading next to the glasses with the side of my pencil. What this does is it forces you to look at the shape and shade it in rather than drawing in the actual shape. You don't want to be drawing in the actual shape, especially when you are learning. You want to look at shapes and you want to learn how to get that shape. So here we've got a white area of his beard. I'm just going to take this out, and I'm going to take, we have quite a sharp line on the edge of his face, so that's why I went back in with the actual pencil. That looks like beard, that looks like hair, so I just want to make that scraggly. And then when we come up here, we go back into that background again. So let's just introduce that. That is the side of the glasses that I can see. So I'm going to put that in as a shadow shape. Sitting about here. I want to see if I can get that effect. This is what I love. It's such a nice challenge to see if we can get the effect. Take the edge of the glasses out where you have the pencil line. And I must emphasize that this whole thing is actually an experiment, because when we add the water, we've got to try and control where the water goes. And that in itself is quite a feat. I also don't like too many hard edges, so I will be using a paper towel when we get to that point. And blotting as fast as I can before it dries the areas that I'm not happy with where I've put the water in. So we're taking this down to the edge of the glasses. We're not going into that, although you can see that I've got quite a lot of, unfortunately, quite a lot of graphite in there. So I'm just going to try and make this a bit of a harder line here. Right, there we go. That part of his face done. This comes up. This one is higher, we've got that right. This comes along and across. We've got this piece that comes out. These are all shadows in his forehead, forehead. I think he is frowning, if I remember correctly on the original photograph. Take that around. Right. So we have all of that in play. Now we're going to go across. So this side of his head is in light. And we are going to put that background in. Just be careful how you do it. We don't want too much of a hard line there. And we are doing the negative space. So you are learning a little bit about negative space here, because we're actually filling in the space behind his head, if that makes sense. Right, we have got that in place. There's quite a lot of shadow here, so that's good. So we can fill that in, and then it goes into the background again, which is, I'm not sure, it looks like flowers, but I don't think it is. But it's beautiful. Just love how artistic this man is with his photography. Excuse me. Okay, so we've done most of that part of his face, and now we need to get stuck into this lens here. So that disappears into the top of that highlight, so we can put that in because that is quite a hard line. We don't want this piece on the glasses to continue across the other side. I can see that I don't have that long enough, but that's fine. I'm not going to change anything now because I think it will just end up dirty. So let's get this shadow in at the bottom. Comes in from about here, moves its way up. It goes in. Oh, let's just measure it actually. Been measuring everything else, we might as well use it for here. Yep, there we go. Comes across, down. And the one thing that is so interesting about drawing or painting or anything that one does is that when you are in it, like we are now with what we are doing, you only really see the mistakes when you stand back or you take a photograph of it and you have a look at it. So do that. I haven't done it yet to check to make sure that my proportions and what I'm drawing is accurate, but I will after. It's quite a hard line here, so I'm going to put that in because I do feel that that will give us the whiteness, and if we do get a bit of water in there, it won't be so bad because it'll just give us a lovely grey effect. Right, so here I've taken this too far in, so we're just going to remove that. And then we've got quite a hard line here for his nose. That goes there. Quite a hard line here. And then this comes here, this hard edge that we have here on his nose, and we have one here. Okay. Have this. I just want to put these hard edges in because I do feel that when we add the water to it, we are going to get a really nice look. Right, we have that. Let's get back to the glasses. You can see that I'm procrastinating a little bit here because I want to get all these shapes in, try and get in as accurately as possible. Yeah, I was just wondering, how is your art journey going, everybody? It's quite amazing. Some people are struggling with their art journey. Make these little highlights a little bit bigger in case you end up taking water in there. Yeah, so some people are really struggling, and I hope that you're not one of those people. I hope that you do find joy in what you are drawing and what you are creating, and you're not stuck or feeling depressed about your work, because we are so critical of ourselves, and I've just given myself permission to make mistakes. It makes a huge difference, I have to say. Sounds silly, but it really does just make a massive, massive difference when you give yourself permission to make mistakes and to explore, experiment. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to lighten this, because I've put down far too much graphite if I look at what I'm putting around it. Yeah, so I know it sounds silly, but I have actually given myself permission to make mistakes, and I've given myself permission to post them and to share those mistakes, because I just feel it's important that people know that everybody makes mistakes when they are drawing, painting, whatever it is that they are doing. And the one thing that I do know is that one just learns so much from those mistakes. It's crazy. So if there is a learning out of it, how is it a mistake, is my sort of thought process. And that's what I've given myself permission to do, and how I'm viewing any mistake that I make. That's how I'm viewing it. That it is an absolute learning curve, and that I need to embrace it. It's given me such freedom. And as I say, although it sounds really silly, it might sound really silly to some people, it works. It really does work. Just find that my attitude has changed towards it, because my critical self has sort of been pushed back into I don't know where. But yes, do give yourself permission to make mistakes. It honestly, it makes such a difference to how you feel, to your work. There's a lot of white light here. So what I'm going to do is, let me just take this off, because that's just scribbles. That isn't even anything. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to do the shape of those hairs. And I'm hoping that by going over them with the water, I retain some white. It's going to be quite interesting, because, as I say, this is a massive experiment, and I'm really interested to see how it's going to work out. So we're just going to do the beard. It is a bit of a scribble, because it is all over the place, and I mean, hair, to look organic, needs to be laid down as fast as you can. Do not think about it. Even here I'm going to put some extra bits in, because I like that freedom. And this comes out quite a bit here. So yes, so I've given myself permission to make mistakes, and it really is quite freeing, quite liberating. And perhaps that's what you need to work on, so that you can continue your journey and just stop being so critical. Stop allowing that critical part of you to keep telling you, you know, what you've done wrong all the time, or what you haven't successfully done right in your drawing, in your work. And see if it works for you. Just putting in a couple of areas that have shadow, just so that we can get that in with our water. Okay, everybody, so this is the first part of the video. The second part of the video will be adding the water. And let's hope that we have success. Whatever the outcome is, it will be success, because it is a drawing. I'm going to get this quite a bit of more of a harder edge here. So I love this contrast. This side is not so much, because this is where the light is coming from. I'm just going to take out some of this here. So I want this contrast between the two sides. So I'm going to put in some of these swirls, and I'm just hoping that I don't get water in here, because this is what I want. That I'm going to leave, because I've actually ruined that with removing it, putting it in and then removing it. And I'm just hoping that I haven't ruined yours by doing that. If you're following me, just putting in a few little shadows here, just to give it a bit more depth when we put the water in. As I say, I have no idea what this is going to turn out like. And we can definitely go back in and sort out a few areas with our pencil. Just moving this over so that I can get a bit more of this in on this side. So it's much darker on here, this side here, because as I said to you earlier on, the light is coming from the left. So I'm just putting in a few more deeps here. Okay, right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And I hope you've enjoyed this. And we'll see what the outcome is like in the next video. Bye for now, and have an awesome arty weekend.